Tableau software is a business intelligence tool which is helpful in creating different dashboards. So in Tableau ecosystem, we have different tools like Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server, Tableau Online, and Tableau Reader. So Tableau Server is mainly a central repository where we can place all the published dashboard. Tableau Desktop is a development environment which is helpful to create different dashboards. This is Tableau Desktop is used by developers who will connect to different databases, and then they'll have connection to databases to fetch this data in Tableau's environment in visualization. And then after dragging and dropping, we can create different functionalities, different graphs and dashboards in Tableau Desktop. Now this Tableau Desktop created dashboards will be placed on Tableau Server, which is a central repository. So for Tableau Server, we need to buy hardware plus licenses. Tableau Online is one more server which is hosted by Tableau, and the maintenance is handled by Tableau itself. Whereas Tableau Reader is a free version, so if we want to share our dashboard with someone with limited functionalities and want to give access to created dashboard in Tableau Desktop, then we can use Tableau Reader. Tableau Reader is free version. We can just download Tableau Reader and we can share this Tableau Desktop created dashboards with Tableau Reader user, and that user can see the dashboard, can interact with the dashboard. Apart from that, we have Tableau Public. Tableau Public is a free version given by Tableau company, where Tableau Public is used to create dashboards. Like we create in Tableau Desktop, we can create dashboards in Tableau Public. Once we create dashboards in Tableau Public, we can save it on Tableau Public Server. We cannot save it on local disk system. So whenever we save the dashboard which is created in Tableau Public, we need to save it on public server which is provided by Tableau. Now the limitation with Tableau Public is we cannot connect to multiple databases. So Tableau connectivity is with TD file, which is Tableau data extract file, access file, Excel, and text file. We cannot connect to multiple databases because once we save this dashboard, it cannot be saved on local system. So that's why we cannot have the client data, which is we cannot have the client data which is critical information for any business. We cannot just bring that into Tableau Public and save it on public server, because if we publish this dashboard on public server, any user can see this underlying data and dashboard if he or she gets the right URL. So that's where we never connect Tableau Public to client in critical data. We connect to some sample data to explore what is the functionalities with Tableau, and then how we can create different dashboards in Tableau. So for exploration, we can use Tableau Public. The distribution is cloud distribution. So we cannot have automation created on Tableau Public. We cannot schedule dashboards. We cannot have automatic refresh processes involved in Tableau Public because it is a free version that it is publishing on Tableau's public server. Security wise, there is no security involved. Your data is accessible to anyone on the internet if he or she gets the URL. So avoid using client critical data with Tableau Public. On Tableau Public, price is free. It's totally free version for unlimited time period. Now Tableau Public has a limitation in terms of number of rows, so you can create one connection with 10 million rows maximum. In terms of rows, we have a limitation with Tableau's database connectivity. So whenever we create any of the dashboard, we can have just one connection, 10 million rows at a time. And for every account holder, so whenever you go to Tableau Public, you need to create your account. So for any account holder, it will allow only 10 GB of space. So you can publish all the dashboard where your overall dashboard size should be less than 10 GB. And this particular version is best for journalists who are having public data and they want to create something on top of public data, or you can have this dashboard created on publicly available data, and then we can have practicing Tableau for free. So if we want to explore Tableau's functionalities, how we can create different graphs and all, then we can have Tableau Public. Next is Tableau Server product. So it connects to workbooks that are published on Tableau Server, and you can have the different users created, projects created, and you can give grant access to individual users. Now distribution is cloud distribution, which is Tableau server. You can have pseudo mode cluster or distributed mode cluster with Tableau server. Automation is available, so we can schedule the dashboard. We can define at what interval we want to schedule the dashboard, and then we can just have the overall process automated. Security wise, it's as good as your hosting provider. So if your server is secure, then your data is secure with that particular server. The price is it's $1,000 for first year, and it from next year it goes into maintenance cycle, so which is $200. We need to minimum buy 10 licenses for Tableau server. And Tableau server is best for publishing the dashboards which are created on Tableau desktop, creating users. So it works as central repository. We can create different users, we can give access to individual users, and then we can automate the workbooks for refresh processes. There will not be any manual intervention. And those who want to edit the workbook in cloud, that is a web edit, there we can have Tableau server. So we can send this dashboard to any business user, and we can give edit action option, so the end user can just web edit the dashboard as per its requirement. So now when we talk about Tableau file system, we have 5 different file systems in Tableau. First is the TWP file. So if I create a dashboard, so I'm connecting to Excel file and I'm creating one dashboard. I'm just connecting to Excel file, opening this file, and then I'll bring this orders tab into Tableau's environment, and then I'll create this map with state and sales value. Now I'll go to the show me, we'll change it to field map. Now once we get this graph, if we save this file, once we save this file has 2 extensions. So first one is your file name. So we can give this file name as sample dashboard. Now the Tableau workbook has 2 different extensions. One is TWB, second is TWBX. So this TWB is having only visualization. You can see here this TWB contains 1 or more workbooks and dashboards and stories which we create, and it does not have data. It creates only visualization. So if we send this TWB file to any user, then he or she will not be able to open the dashboard and see the overall visualization, because the underlying data is not with this workbook. So TWB file is used with live connections mainly. Whenever we don't have any data which is going with our file, then we have this TWB file created, or we don't want to show or we want to have additional level of security on top of our data, so we'll have the TWB. The next option which we have is TWBX file. In the drop down, the second option while saving your dashboard is TWBX file. So this TWBX file is a zip file containing your workbook plus your local files. So it will have the visualization which you have created, plus it will have the underlying data with it. Now this local files will include your Excel files which you can connect to Tableau, your access data, your local cubes, images, shapes, geocoding. These different local files will be there in TWBX packaged work. Now third one is Tableau bookmark. So if you have any individual worksheet and you want to have the connection information with it, you can just bookmark this particular file, and then you can access this file or the workbook which you are creating again in next work. So you can have this Tableau bookmarks created. We cannot have bookmark on dashboards, but we can have bookmark created on different workbooks, and then we can just fetch these workbooks from other dashboards so we can reuse them again and again. The next is data source, which is TDS file. So TDS file is a shortcut to your data source connection. It contains your connection information as well as user defined fields. Now if we connect to one of the database or one of the Excel file, and then we create some calculated fields, we create some parameters, sets, groups, hierarchy, and then we want to save this data source which we have created, and we want to access that again and again. If that is the scenario, we use this TDS file, Tableau data source file, I'll save this workbook as TWBX. Now this TDS file is helpful when we want to have quick access to this data source. So I'll just name this data source as first data source, and then I'll go to work. So if I create any of the calculated field, if I create some parameters, sets, this data source will have new columns created, parameters created, sets created. For example, if I create this hierarchy here with product category and subcategory, now this data source is changed. We can rename some of the columns. All the metadata changes we can do here in this data source, which is our first data source. Now we want to save this data source so that next time if we create any of the dashboard, we can have quick access to this data source which we have changed. We don't have to recreate all the calculated fields, parameters, sets, groups again and again. Now to save this data source, we can just right click on this data source and we can click on add to save data sources. Now once we click on add to save data sources, it goes to my Tableau repository data sources folder, and then it saves this first data source. So I'll just name this data source as sample data source for demo. Now I'm saving this file as sample data source for demo. Now you can see the data type is Tableau data source, which is .tds file. So this .tds file will have the quick access to the database connection. The second option which we have is TDSX file. So this TDSX file will have data plus metadata, whereas this TDS file will just have metadata. So once we save this file, next time if we come to this landing page where we have database connection option, in this save data source section, we can see the sample data source for demo. Next time if we want to access this data source, we can just click on this and then we can access this new sample data source. So I'm just opening another workbook and I want to connect to this sample data source. So once I click on this home page, I can see a sample data source for demo. If I click on it, next time whatever data processing which we have done on our existing data, it will be automatically pasted in new file. We can see we have created one hierarchy there. It is automatically phased into new file. So it is a local copy of your data source TDS file where you can quickly access whatever changes you have done in your data source. So that's TDS file which we have. So TDS file is mainly contains the data source connection. It does not contain data. So we have TDSX file which contains data plus your metadata. Now next is TDE file, which is Tableau data extract. So TDE file is basically a saved subset of the data source, and that will be saved on local file. So it is basically whenever we want to extract the data from data source or database and we want to keep a local file of it, then this TD file is a compressed version of this local data source, and whenever we create any TWBX file, then it is involved in, or it is phased and placed in packaged workbook. Whenever we save any workbook as TWBX file, so this TD is a TDE file, which is Tableau data extract file, will be included into packaged workbook. Now to get this TDE file, we can just right click on this first data source. We can click on extract data. Once we click on extract data, we have options here to get this extract data. We'll see these options in detail in live connection versus data extract session. Once we click on extract, it will start fetching this data and will be extracting the data, and it's saving this data somewhere. So that's how we can create the TDE file. Now we can see the TDE file which it has created. We'll see its properties. Now we can see this file is saved at this particular location. Now this type is Microsoft Excel file is converted into a TDE file. Now if we want to see TDE file, we can go to my documents, my Tableau repository, and then in data sources. So we'll see some data sources in 9.2. So this is TDS file which we have, Tableau data source, and then this is the Tableau extract, which is TDE file. So this is the Tableau data extract file which will have data in it, and whenever we create any dashboard we'll get this, or whenever we save any dashboard as package workbook, we'll get the data plus its visualization part. Now how Tableau works, so basically whenever we create anything in Tableau by just dragging columns and placing it into Tableau's visualization, it has a VisQL model, which is visual query language, that converts your drag and drop into a query, which is a visual query. So this visual query will have all the filters, it will have all the aggregations which you have mentioned, it will have data blending, and then it will have defined roles. So for which role you have showing the information, for which role you want to show a particular rows, columns, or regions, and then we can have table calculations in VisQL model. Once we get this query which is created in VisQL, that comes to data model. So this data model will have all the default values, all the comments or description which we have written. It will have all the calculated fields, the aliases we have given in our data source in the edit metadata section, and then all the user created fields like groups, sets, calculated fields, parameters, everything will be there in this data model. Because Tableau is just read only, it is not write back. So if we create anything in Tableau, it will not write back to the database, it is just read only. So all the changes which we are doing on data source will be placed in data model, which is a metadata part. Now we have two types of connections in Tableau. One is live connection, second is Tableau data extract. So if it is Tableau data extract, this data model will directly talk to extract part. If it is live connection, it will come to the connection section where we'll have server information, we'll have table information, the join conditions which we have defined, the connection attributes, all the metadata related to database connection will be placed in connection layer. And this connection layer will talk to your database, data mart, flat files or cube data sources. So these databases will talk to connection layer will give inputs to data model will give inputs to VisQL model. Now the Tableau server architecture, so whenever we create any dashboard and publish it on Tableau server, so these dashboards will be published on server and will be accessible through Tableau desktop, Tableau mobile or browser. Now all the requests which are getting to this Tableau server will be handled by a gateway. So gateway will take care of all the requests and then load balancing part. Then we have main components in Tableau server, which are data server, VisQL server, and application server. So this data server will take care of fetching data from databases and then displaying that into required format in visualization. VisQL server will convert this all the queries which we have created using this drag and drop. So this VisQL will convert those queries into database understandable queries, and then they'll be executed on database. The application server will take care of user authentications, whether the user is having right access to a particular dashboard or not, and then all the user level securities will be done in this application layer. Now this repository will keep all the metadata related to server, how many users we have, how many projects we have, when this particular dashboard is accessed by which user, when it is published or deleted or downloaded. So all the information will be kept in repository. In data connections, we have fast data engine, SQL connector, and MDX connector, which are used mainly to connect to data warehouse, data marts, files, or cubes. So once we create a dashboard on Tableau desktop, we just publish this dashboard on server, and then server will directly talk to databases to have all the interaction with database directly. So we don't have to have the Tableau desktop to do any process or refresh anything. We can even schedule refreshes on Tableau server. So Tableau server will directly go to database and will talk to database. So that is the overall server architecture whenever we publish any dashboard on server. So this is how it is getting accessed.